Jaya Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Gaurachandra Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Gadadhar Jaya Srinivas Jaya Mukunda Vasudevi Jaya Haridas.
Kavichandra Maharaj.
Yes,
please accept
welcome.
my humble obeisances. All
Please
glories.
accept my obeisances, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
No. It is us that thank you for your valuable time. So, of course, today we are continuing our series of celebrating Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And it's very good, and we're very happy that you're lending your time to us and helping us lead in this deepening our understanding of this great literature. Maharaj,
so.
you're a famous person. You don't really need much of an introduction, but just in case there's a few people in our audience, of course, you are a initiating spiritual master. You are a GBC member. You're a sannyasi for a very long time. When did you take sannyas?
1983, I think.
83, yeah, a long time. And you of course preach worldwide. I thought we could then just go back to, I think, maybe 1975. Is that when you and I were distributing books together in the Chicago airport?
Around that time, you came to Chicago after I left there, but I met you a few times. We went around Texas a few times to the Dallas airport and some army base, and
yeah. Anyway, the thing I remember the most about you
driving so fast.
Seems like I've always been a fast driver.
Yeah.
And I guess as I I got a little older, maybe I kept buying faster vehicles. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the thing I remember so much about you is that you always had your face in a book, and you were always reading to us, and you were always speaking about the philosophy, and you were the classic person that followed Srila Prabhupada's instructions that said, don't just distribute my books, but you have to read them also. So I have the fondest memories of spending time with you in that regard.
Well, thank you. Please enliven me to continue to do that again. But we couldn't distribute without reading them. It's absolutely necessary.
Yeah. So today, you felt that you wanted to speak. Of course, you can speak on anything that inspires you as your heart's desire. But you wanted to spend some time on the famous Atmarama verse.
That's right.
And how Lord Chaitanya charmed Sarvabauma. And so go ahead, begin. Tell us about this.
Okay, so somehow ever since I first read this, I was really fascinated by it. And for a long time, I wanted to speak about it, like make a seminar, but where I am, we don't have much seminars. Maybe it's because when I was in school, I used to study the dictionary, and my family played Scrabble, so I'm fascinated with words, and that's how Lord Chaitanya won the argument by his words, defining words and combining words. So, but anyway, the first time was in Sarvabauma. After Sarvabauma, the first place how Lord Chaitanya charmed Sarvabauma was by his humility, and he first appeared completely helpless, like unconscious. So Sarvabauma felt compassion, and he was attracted to his most powerful weapon, his beauty, and he took him, to his house to revive him. And then he was just attracted to him, and he was so much enamored by his beauty, but he was worried because he's such a young sannyasi. So he told him, I can teach you Vedanta and make you strong so you can keep your sannyas. And I can give you into a sannyas, a higher type of sannyas. So then he offered to teach Lord Chaitanya the Vedanta Sutra. So he was teaching for 7 days, and the other students are there, and Lord Chaitanya just sat there listening. He never showed any emotion or anything. He just listened. So Sarvabauma finally asked him, don't you understand this? You don't have any questions, you're not making any comments. And Lord Chaitanya said that the Vedanta is completely clear, like sunlight, like clear skies, but your interpretation is like clouds. He was interpreting, of course, according to Shankaracharya. So Sarvabauma, became bewildered, and no one, because he was the most renowned teacher of Vedanta in the world and logic, and so we asked him, what is your understanding? And then he asked him, can you explain the Atmarama verse? Now, he said he has that verse, you can put it up. Sakshi?
It's on the screen now. Are you able to see it, Maharaj?
Yeah, somehow I can't find that screen, but anyway, Atmaramas Tamunaya, I was thinking about it. It must be something that the Mayavadis like that verse or something. They probably have their own interpretation of it. So that's why he asked about it. So Lord Chaitanya said, well, I don't really, know very much, but if you explain it first, and then, based on that, I'll see if I can think of anything. So again, his humility and honoring the senior person and the, all that, whatever, So Sarvabauma explained it by all kinds of logic in 9 different ways, which was, no one else in the world could do that. And then Lord Chaitanya said, okay, I'll see what I can do. Now, in this case, it doesn't give details of, how he explained it, but he explained it in 13 different ways according to the, or 21 different ways according to Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Sarvabauma was just totally bewildered by that. He fell unconscious, and first he just said there's 11 words, and he explained every other word one after another. And he took each word and combined it with the word Atmarama, and then explained the Atmarama in 18 different ways. So he said that, and I'm just reading, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has different potencies, and his transcendental qualities have inconceivable prowess. Can't explain them fully. 3 items attract the mind of the perfect student engaged in spiritual activity. So he explained it according to Sukadeva Goswami, the 4 Kumaras, and he gave many different explanations. So he's talking about Krishna, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead and all its attractiveness. And so in Sarvabauma, he was struck with wonder, and he understood that Lord Chaitanya was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he condemned himself. He said, Lord Krishna, Chaitanya is obviously Lord Krishna himself, but I couldn't understand it and was very proud, so I've been very offensive. So he denounced himself and took shelter of the Lord, trying to get the mercy of the Lord. And Lord Chaitanya showed his Vishnu form, He showed first the four-arm form, and then he appeared as Krishna in a blackest form. And then when Sarvabauma saw that, he fell down to offer obeisances, and he stood up with folded hands to offer prayers. And, you know, he had previously thought he was just an exalted sannyasi, but when he heard this, he's only the Supreme Lord could speak like this. So although he had, you know, his son-in-law was always telling him Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord and Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, so he didn't believe it. Why should I believe that? And we don't find it in the Vedas. So now he realized it for sure, and Lord Chaitanya told him, don't tell anybody about this six-armed form. And there's actually a quote also from the Chaitanya Bhagavat that says Sarvabauma fell unconscious, and then Lord Chaitanya put both feet on his head and gave him so much blessing. So he ended up becoming the most, you know, dedicated, fanatic devotee of Lord Chaitanya, dedicated all his energy. He wrote beautiful prayers and songs. He wrote those 100 slokas glorifying Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya said anyone who reads those will get, you know, the pure love of Godhead. And so, you know, just on and on like that. And he wrote, you know, this Navagora, Varam, so many beautiful verses about Lord Chaitanya, you know, that are beautiful, beautiful poetry. He just suddenly applied all of his learning and scriptural knowledge to glorifying Lord Chaitanya.
So, Maharaj, we have on the screen now an overview of the 61 explanations of the Atmarama verse. What is this document?
Okay, that comes later.
Oh,
but
okay.
That's next. No, it's next. And that was a different time. And
do you want to cover that now that it's on the screen, or should we come back to it later?
Come back when I say.
Okay, good.
So Lord Chaitanya told him, you are exactly like Brihaspati. And the Gorganadishtapita says that he was Brihaspati. So this is, you know, the phenomenal way, and just the way he charmed him first with being totally helpless, and then being completely submissive and humble, and, you know, seeming like he needed help. We know that's very powerful. And when we're preaching to people, if we ask them to help us, people become happy. So anyway, Lord Chaitanya then, you know, he traveled and he was in and out of, and by Sarvabauma's becoming a devotee, that he was the, you know, the guru of the king of the whole kingdom. So, you know, everybody was shocked because he was like the chief of all the Mayavadis. And suddenly he's a very, you know, dedicated Vaishnava. So that really had a big effect on the world, you know, in Jagannath Puri.
And then Sarvabauma Bhattacharya continued on as a Vaishnava and became a strong proponent of Vaishnavism.
Yeah, preached like anything, you know, just, like I said, he wrote all these beautiful prayers. So, you know, it's just, so that was the first time that Lord Chaitanya explained the verse.
Was there another time?
Yeah, the second time was much later, when he was after teaching Sanatana Goswami for 2 months and instructing him to write Hari Bhakti Vilas and other books. Then Sanatan, begged him to please enter my heart and let me be able to teach all this to others. So Lord Chaitanya, of course, he agreed. And then Sanatan said, well, I heard that you explained the Atmarama verse to, Sarvabauma Bhattacharya, and I'd like to hear your explanation. So that time had been like 18 different ways of explaining it. So he's asking, Atmaramas Chimunanina Granta Apikutama Kurvant Yahoitakim Bhaktim Itam Bhuta Gunogari. So if you want to show a little bit of that movie, or we're going to skip that. People can look it up. That's him, Sarvabauma teaching Lord Chaitanya. Just show like 1 minute.
So Shakshi Gopal, let's just see if we can play a little bit.
আমি কি ভুলতে পারি আমি কাউকে ভুলতে পারি না তো কৌমুদী ব্যাখ্যা সূত্রে প্রতিভাসিত তত্ত্ব প্রতিজ্ঞায়াম শ্রীমৎ শঙ্করাচার্য দর্শিত সন্ন্যাসী একটি কথা আমি তোমাকে জিজ্ঞাসা করি আদেশ করুন 7 দিন যাবত তুমি আমার কাছে নিয়মিত পাঠ গ্রহণ করো কিন্তু এর মধ্যে একটি প্রশ্ন তুমি উত্থাপন করো মহামৌনীর মতো বসে আছো এর অর্থ নীরবে শুনছিলাম তার কিন্তু আমি যে ব্যাখ্যা করলাম তা তোমার হৃদয়ঙ্গম হলো কিনা আমি যা পাঠ দিলুম তা তুমি বুঝতে পারলে কিনা হ্যাঁ আমাদের প্রাঞ্জল ব্যাখ্যা অপূর্ব ব্যাখ্যা এমন আর কখনো শুনিনি বেদান্তের সব জটিলতা আপনার ব্যাখ্যায় একেবারে সরল হয়ে গেছে তরুণ সন্ন্যাস
Okay, good.
It's quite a nice movie, Prabhupada actually went to that movie and he liked it very much. There's 2 movies.
When did he go to that movie?
Back in the early days of Mayapur.
And when was that movie done?
I'm not sure. In the 30s, I think.
If devotees wanted to watch that, where would they find it?
On YouTube. There's 2 of them. There's Nadia something, Nadia Goranga. And then there's Nimai Nadia Nimai, I think it's called. And then the other one is called Neela Chala Mahaprabhu.
Shakshi Gopal Prabhu, if and you have a little bit of extra time in the next 5-10 minutes, and you can locate the actual link, maybe you can show it on the screen for our audience to be able to find that. So, okay.
Beautiful bhajans, with the original type of music Narottam Das Thakur did.
Okay, so what's next?
Okay, so the second time, when Sanatana Goswami is saying, I heard it, now please, I'd like to hear it again. And the verse is, those who are self-satisfied and unattracted by external material desires are also attracted to the loving service of Sri Krishna, whose qualities are transcendental and whose activities are wonderful. Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Krishna because he has such transcendentally attractive features. And that's from the Bhagavatam 1.7, number 10. So he's asking, I want to hear this. And Lord Chaitanya said, I'm one madman and Sarvabauma is another one. So he took my words to be truth. I don't really remember what I said, but if something comes to my mind because of your association, I will explain it. So same thing, he's humility, that I don't really know much. I don't remember, but because of Sarvabauma, because of Sanatana Goswami's desire and his purity, then he says, I'll be able to say something. So, so he starts describing the words. Now you can put up that chart. I'm not going to go
Yes,
over all of them.
he just put that chart up.
That where it starts to show the definitions of the words.
Okay, Shakshi, I think you might have to scroll then. Ah, okay.
It's like number 4, I think. So you can see, we won't try to go over all those because it's quite, long. But he gives a dictionary. He says, according to this dictionary, that dictionary, and he gives meanings of the words. So he says, bhukti, has unlimited variety. And the word siddhi, mukti has 5 varieties. So causeless devotional service is unmotivated by sense enjoyment. When one is freed from this, he can bring Lord Krishna under his control. And then he says there's 10 meanings to the word bhakti, sadhana bhakti, regulative principles, and the other 9 are varieties of prema bhakti. So he gets into like so many different levels of everything just in this explanation. 9 varieties of prema bhakti are there. And then
So
you can see
wow.
Prabhupada
Okay.
is giving us so much. It's like some crazy people say Prabhupada didn't give us everything. He gave us like much more than we can ever swim through even the beach of the ocean, even stick our toe in it. As Lord Chaitanya's Leelas, he describes it. It's like the ocean, and it's unlimited, and Sheshanaga is speaking for thousands of years with thousands of heads, and he's never repeated anything twice, and so it's just to give some idea how unlimited this whole thing is. So Lord Chaitanya just takes every little word and then combines it in so many different ways, and so.
So this is a very excellent PowerPoint. Is this a PowerPoint?
Yeah, I found it online and I gave him the link. That's how he's using it.
Okay. Okay, good.
It's very helpful because, somebody sorted it all out and made like a mind map or something.
Yeah, so Shakshi Prabhu, also, if you could find the link for this, that would be good. And then we could show the link for this document.
He has it. That's how he's showing it. So Lord Chaitanya went on. He said, the attraction of Krishna devotees on the neutrality can go up to love of Godhead, and the attraction on servitorship can go up to spontaneous attachment. So this is, I found very interesting, how you can make progress from, and what kind of progress you can make from each position.
Excellent.
Devotees
Excellent.
and the friends of the Lord can increase their ecstatic love up to anuraga, and the parental devotees can go up to the end of anuraga. And the gopis are attracted in conjugal love, can increase up to mahabhava. These are some of the glorious meanings of the word bhakti. Bhakti, yeah, some of them. Now I don't know the other ones, but so then he does itambhuta, means guna, and has other meanings, and then when one is attracted to Krishna on a transcendental platform, there's no logical argument. That's what Lord Chaitanya is saying. Krishna has unlimited qualities. Devotees are attracted by his beauty, his fragrance, and they're differently situated. So he quotes a lot of things from like Rukmini glorifying Krishna after she heard about him and became fully attractive. And he says the qualities of Krishna attract everything and everyone, moving and non-moving, not living and non-living. Everything's birds, animals, everything's attracted to Krishna's quality.
Hmm.
Then the word Hari has many different meanings, and two are foremost. One is that the Lord takes away all inauspicious things from his body. And the second is that he attracts the mind by ecstatic love of God. So when someone somehow or other can remember the Lord anywhere and everywhere, the Lord Hari takes away all the miserable conditions. So he said these are the main meanings of the word Hari. And then the really amazing thing about this chapter is it has the story of Mrigari. All of a sudden, he tells us, he says, I've explained 60 different meanings. That's how he's combining all these words with Atmarama and with this and that. And there's so many different, that comes later. But, the story of Mrigari, everybody's very familiar. And somehow, even when I first joined the temple, devotees knew this story because we used to do the drama. It was one of everybody's favorite dramas, and I don't know where they've gotten it from because it's from this chapter, which is Madhya Lila, way up in Madhya Lila, chapter 6.
Hmm.
So that story, somehow he tells Sanatana Goswami that quite a long version of it, every little detail, and it's quite fascinating that he would do that, but it's just one of the more amazing things about his personality and his exchanges of love with the devotees. Sarvabauma, that's an intense exchange of love, the way he dealt with him and charmed him and, brought out Sarvabauma's compassion and everything for him. And then, so after that, he says, you can look at that chart. He's made 60 different, he's explained 60 different meanings of the verse by combining, at the end, he's just combining so many things with so many definitions of Atmarama.
Hmm.
Then he
So
says,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just wondering, didn't Lord Chaitanya have something to do with Prakasananda Saraswati also with regard to the Atmarama verse?
No, not the Atmarama verse.
Ah.
He was, with Prakasananda, again, a puffed up Mayavadi scholar, and something comes later at the end of this particular explanation, but at that time, that was earlier, and they were thinking, why don't you study Vedanta? You're a sannyasi. Why are you just hanging around with sentimentalists and dancing and singing? That's not a sannyasi's dharma. And then Lord Chaitanya did the same thing to charm him, a different way, but he never associated with these Mayavadi sannyasis, even though he was there for a long time in Varanasi. And the devotees were getting really distressed. The only two devotees there, Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar Acharya. So they got so distressed to hear all these Mayavadis criticizing Lord Chaitanya. They came to him in total distress and said, we can't stand it. You have to do something about it. And so Lord Chaitanya was just thinking, what can I do? And of course, by his transcendental arrangement, this Brahmin came and told Lord Chaitanya, I know you don't associate with the other sannyasis, but I've invited all the sannyasis of Varanasi to my house tomorrow, and I would like for you to come. So Lord Chaitanya accepted that invitation. And so when he got there, you know, they had a foot washing place outside, and he sat down there and just sat there. And then he showed this effulgence, which is compared to 10,000 suns or something even more. And when they saw him, then they, you know, this Prakasananda, because they all think everybody's Narayan, they thought he must be Narayan for sure. Why are you sitting in this unclean place? You should come up to the front, you know. And then they asked him to explain, you know, why he was singing and dancing. So he told them how his guru told him, you're too foolish to study, you know, Vedanta. And Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, kalona steva, nasteva, nasteva gata anita. And then he just picked apart the Vedanta, he picked apart Shankaracharya's explanation, at the same time defending Shankaracharya that he's not at fault because he's sent by Krishna, and so many things. And by the end, they were all just stunned again by his intelligence. First was his beauty and his humility, and then his intelligence. So it's the same technique, but it's different, not the same verse. All right?
Yeah,
so
very good.
After 60 explanations, he said, now by your association, I got another one. It's due to your devotional service that these waves of meaning are arising. So actually, we all experience that. If somebody really wants to hear, like Gopal Bhatta, he's pulling out so much out of all the people he's interviewing. Such superior devotees have been there. I saw Satchidananda Swami, and, you know, just amazing. The whole thing, I don't remember everybody, but, and he's pulling out the best. So he said, Atma refers to the living entity. Everyone, everywhere is considered a living entity. And everybody is Chaitagya. And when they become Nirgranta or saintly persons, then they engage in Krishna service. That's the 61st meaning. Then he quotes this famous verse, which is one of my favorites. I don't know if it's famous, but Aham Vedmi, Sukho Veti, Vyaso Veti, Naveti Va, Nabuja Na Chatikaya. That Lord Shiva said, I may know, and Sukadev, the son of Vyasadeva, may know. And Vyasadeva may know or not know the Srimad Bhagavatam. On the whole, Srimad Bhagavatam, the spotless Purana, can be learned only through devotional service, not by material intelligence, speculative methods, or imaginary commentaries. So that was when Sridhar Swami wrote his first commentary on the Bhagavatam. And people were questioning, you know, if it's bona fide or not. And they offered it to Lord Shiva, and then somehow they got this sloka from Lord Shiva. Yeah. So that's here in this section also. So devotional service is 9 processes.
So this was the 61st meaning.
Right.
What's the 62nd?
No comment. So Sanatan fell actually at 61 that's it. It's not 64.
Oh, okay.
He fell down at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya and was offering prayers. And he said, please personally tell me how I can write this difficult book about Vaishnava behavior. Please manifest yourself in my heart. I wish I could feel like that. Lord Chaitanya said, whatever you want to know will be able to do correctly by Lord Krishna's favor. He will manifest the real purport. So he was a pure devotee, and he was able to write, you know, this Vaishnava Smriti, you know, by the power of Lord Chaitanya. And then he tells them how to, you know, the basic idea of the Hari Bhakti Vilas, just a little bit. So then the Maharashtrian Brahmin, who is the one who invited, you know, Lord Chaitanya, he told everybody, that Lord Chaitanya has explained this verse in 61 different ways, and everyone was like totally bewildered and astonished to hear that. This is in Varanasi, that, you know, where Lord Chaitanya had been there and thinking, I have to leave and I have to carry, I brought a heavy load of Krishna Bhakti, but nobody wants it, and I'll have to take it back with me. But all of a sudden, so the people gathered there and they wanted to hear these 61 explanations again. So Lord Chaitanya explained it again. Now, it doesn't tell if he explained it exactly the same way or what he did, but he explained it again. And when everybody heard that, they were astonished and struck with wonder. And everyone decided that he was Lord Krishna himself.
Mm.
Then, Ekta Uttiya Chalila Gora Hari, Namaskara Kari Loka Hari, Dvandva Kari. After giving these explanations again, he arose and took his leave, and all the people offered obeisances and chanted the Maha Mantra, which was not being done before in Varanasi. And all the inhabitants of Varanasi began chanting the Hare Krishna mantra in ecstatic love. Sometimes they laughed, sometimes they cried, and sometimes they chanted, and sometimes they danced. The Mayavadi sannyasis and learned scholars of Varanasi been discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, the way that Lord Chaitanya, in this way, he delivered them. So he went back to his residence with his, and he turned the whole city of Varanasi into another Navadvip, where everybody was studying Srimad Bhagavatam. Navadvip was a famous center of learning at the time. But previous to this, and nobody studied Srimad Bhagavatam in Varanasi. They only studied the Vedanta Sutra with the Sankaracharya's interpretations.
Mm.
So this is the power of Lord Chaitanya. Just amazing, you know, like to know all these definitions based right from the dictionary of all these words, you know, 8 definitions for some of them. And then for the Atmarama verse, he gave like more and more, like 30 or something. So all the scholars, they would gather together to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And Lord Chaitanya said, I came here to sell my ecstatic emotional love, but, you know, it appeared necessary for me to carry it back to my own country because you were feeling unhappy that no one was buying my goods. So by your will only, I distributed them without charging. He's giving credit to the devotees for inspiring him. And then Prabhupada says, when we began distributing the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Western countries, a similar thing happened. In the beginning, we were disappointed. For at least 1 year, no one came forth to help this movement. But by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, some boys joined in 1966, and we distributed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra without bargaining or selling. As a result, that was Harinam Sankirtan. As a result, this movement has spread all over the world with the assistance of European boys and girls. We therefore pray for the blessings of Lord Chaitanya upon all the devotees of the Western world who are spreading this movement. And the devotees said, you have incarnated to deliver the fallen souls. You have delivered them by the east and the south, and now you're delivering them in the west. Only Varanasi was left, you know, because they were against his activities. So when this news spread, you know, people came flooding in from all the neighboring villages to see Lord Chaitanya. This is really an ecstatic pastime. So that was, you know, a quick explanation of the Atmarama verse. And give us some idea of what really studying the Srimad Bhagavatam is.
Excellent. We're getting a little close to the end of our time, but when you and I were talking prior to our interview, you were also just speaking about how many devotees that you know of are reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, distributing it, and And I was hoping that you could just tell a few stories of what you know of what is going on in terms of reading groups and things like that. We
Well,
certainly a big part of our mission of this celebration of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is to encourage more reading of the book. So help us out on that.
okay, well, I really always pushing Chaitanya. It's my favorite book, and I read it many, many times, different parts of it. This summer, when the COVID, we were kind of locked down, devotees in Israel asked me. So I was reading it. So we started Madhya Lila, and we read every day, hour and a half or a little more, hour and 15 minutes. And that was with the Russian translation. But sometime in maybe November, we finished the Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Hmm.
And everybody stuck it out. Everybody was really happy. And so that was my latest experience. I
And
remember
was
when
was that a daily effort?
daily,
Wow.
7 days a week, except a few days off for various reasons. But
Beautiful.
it's a small group. Started out at about 20, but then they got back to work, so it went down to about 12 or 11 every day. But it's on YouTube, and many people are listening there.
Nice.
So just to go back, I don't know exactly when that first. I've heard of quite a few of the people you've interviewed talking about. Devamrita Swami mentioned Sri Krishna Chaitra. This chapter 7, Prabhupada wanted that to be printed as a chapter, and it was. You might remember, it was a little paperback and came quite early, long before the whole book came. Lord Chaitanya in 5 features, and because it so much glorifies the Sankirtan movement, and and really annihilates Mayavadi philosophy, and that was what Prabhupada especially liked about it. So then when the Chaitanya Charitamrita came out, the first one, if you remember, was a very big book, like the original Krishna book, like 10 inches by 12 inches or something like that. Really big, like the size of my computer screen. And it was full of pictures, and we were distributing that, and I remember that came out starting with chapter 7. The first 6 chapters came later when the whole set process, the marathon happened. So we were distributing that in the airport. I was in Washington, D.C., and I was just stunned, amazing. Like these businessmen, they just take it, hand them this huge book, and bright colors and this weird-looking yellow man on the cover, and they were buying it, like just taking it. Yeah, sure. And then we were reading it like crazy, So one thing that Prabhupada said that I think is being greatly misinterpreted was, the Bhagavad Gita is, what do you call it? Just first study, and the Bhagavatam is graduate study, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita is postgraduate. So somehow it got the idea that you can't read Chaitanya Charitamrita until you read the whole Bhagavatam. Now, I don't agree with that at all, but, that because if you look at the history, Prabhupada was in something like the 7th canto, and he stopped translating the Bhagavatam for a year and a half to do the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he certainly didn't think that no one should read it until they read the whole Bhagavatam. We should read Bhagavatam, that's for sure, but it doesn't have to be the whole Bhagavatam. We need both. And then there's a statement from Bhakti Siddhanta that I got from Madhavananda Prabhu. He's a source of nectar. He says, there are many who have read Srimad Bhagavatam before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came into this world. However, the real purport and actual object of the Srimad Bhagavatam is only comprehensible to those who have read it after reading Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita was written by Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, one of the chief followers in the line of Rupa Goswami. Those persons who have read Srimad Bhagavatam, these persons have read Srimad Bhagavatam inside of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Chaitanya Charitamrita is full of Srimad Bhagavatam verses and dynamic displays of how to preach Srimad Bhagavatam, how to understand it by Lord Chaitanya himself, the person Bhagavat. So that's one thing.
I have heard from some senior people that it is easier to understand the Srimad Bhagavatam if you read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So they seem to suggest it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, that's, we're working together. So Prabhupada in 1966 or 67 in New York, he gave a long series of classes on Chaitanya Charitamrita, teachings of Sanatana Goswami. I don't know, you can look on the, the database. It's many classes.
Mm.
So he was introducing it right from the beginning. He gave Hayagriva that outline of the drama of Lord Chaitanya's life, very early. And then I went first to India in 1975, and all the morning classes was Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Mm.
I wasn't there in 76, but I think also in 76 in Mayapur, all the morning class was Chaitanya Charitamrita, even though I don't think I'm not sure if it had come out already or not. And when it did come out, I can speak for everybody I knew at the time. They were all avid readers because, they were the top book distributors. And we didn't read anything else. Those books kept coming like quite regularly, 17 books in 2 months. So we were just madly reading I think every Prabhupada disciple in the world was just madly reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that's one reason the Prabhupada disciples, understand you got to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. But, because of that statement, which is a little bit misunderstood, somehow the idea is there. But it's actually, I know one girl in Japan, she said it's so much easier to understand than the Srimad Bhagavatam. She was the top book distributor in the world at the time, but, that was her feeling. She was not an English expert at the time, but she tried to read everything. And she really liked Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Mm.
So I said here in Bali, I was surprised, but because we don't find that many that I think that speak English, but there's devotees all over the place, thousands of them, and they were ordering English Chaitanya Charitamrita sets like anything we were having. Everybody came from India had to bring 2 or 3 with them, and they were going out.
Mm.
So it's, and Srila Prabhupada said when he was on the ship, and all the trouble on the ship and the rocking and rolling and the heart attack, he said his only solace was Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Mm.
And he was reading that on the ship. So that's, inspired me. I want to read it if it's that powerful. And Bhaktisiddhanta, at the end of his life, he was reading only Chaitanya Charitamrita for I don't know how long, but quite some period at the end of his life. And I heard Devamrita giving it in his unique way of delivering a message about, if you're flooded and you're swimming and you have to throw away a book, you can leave the Bhagavad Gita, you don't want to, and then you can leave the Bhagavatam, but hang on to the Caitanya Charitamrita if it's the only book left in the world and nothing else is necessary. This is what another thing Bhaktisiddhanta said. So we have a lot of statements like that, and we have experience of so many devotees. Many temples have once a week at least Caitanya Charitamrita class in the morning. I think when I was in London for the marathon, I think they had every day during the marathon.
Excellent.
So many devotees are reading it, but one thing is, we don't promote it enough. We have all these promotions for selling Srimad Bhagavatam, but Chaitanya Charitamrita is kind of like extra, somebody's really into it.
Yes, I think that Vaisheshekha Prabhu has made some special effort during this period of time. And of course, what we're doing is strongly promoting it.
Yeah, very good.
As our main theme leading up to Gaura Purnima. And, I think the SPT and we all gathered together and started coming up with different ideas on how we could serve the devotional community leading up to Gaura Purnima. And the idea evolved to celebrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So,
well, congratulations, a brilliant move.
Thank you. We've had a great time doing it. And of course, you just also now have helped lead this program. So we're very, very thankful on that. And happy that you're happy with what we're doing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very effective. I sent the link out to everybody I could think of, from the beginning, and they're listening to the classes. So, you see what else? Oh yeah, there's a really amazing Sankirtan devotee named Shasta Krit, which I think deserves an article on the forum or on Dandavats and everywhere. He's in Atlanta. He's married. He was a big book distributor in LA for a long time. And he has a spot at one Indian shopping center. So he sits out every day on his table with all the books. And he's giving reports all the time on Facebook, and it's just amazing. Many people buy the Bhagavatam set right there. And then the other day I sent you that, he showed a picture of his palette of Chaitanya Charitamrita sets he ordered for this Gaura Purnima marathon time.
And just to be clear, you just said he ordered an entire pallet of these.
Yeah, it's a big pile of books, and that's a lot of sets, You can't see the whole thing, but it's about 5 across and 4 up or something like that, in this square. So it's a lot of books. So just the other day, he showed, he has a restaurant in his house his wife takes care of called Yummies, and people really like it. He gets a lot of, and especially Afro-Americans coming, high-class Afro-Americans. They're very spiritual people, and they're buying Bhagavatam sets, they're attending his programs, and people are coming up to his table and buying. So that he invited, I guess, a group over to his place and he sold 5 Chaitanya Charitamrita sets in that day. So he's really going to town, and it's just a matter of letting people know about it. It's not expensive set, but it's just so much nectar. It's just full of ecstasy, and the end of every chapter promises if anyone who hears this pastime will get, Krishna prema and ecstatic love of God and all these things. So it's, you really want to read it more and more the more you hear about Lord Chaitanya. Yeah. And the devotees we get to associate with in Chaitanya Charitamrita, like in the Adi Leela chapter 8 and 9, it's got all these, all the intimate associates of Lord Chaitanya and descriptions of all their amazing character and bhakti. And then another chapter is all the associates of Lord Nityananda, and there's so many of them, and they're also amazing devotees. You know, they've come from with the Lord, you know, they came with him, but then they spread this teaching all over the place. And then we get the association of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Lord Chaitanya, of course, so many, all the Goswamis, just like, it's association. It's not just, you know, some stories. You get to associate with all these people. And like somebody was saying, it's timely. You know, I remember even Shamasundar said when they first were hearing from Prabhupada, he's talking about Krishna, and they didn't have any books, and really had a hard time like grasping this cowherd boy and all these big demons and everything, and hearing about all that. But then when Prabhupada talked about Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's more like recent, and it's more like modern day, and they can relate to it. So, you know, we can still go to Mayapur and visit all the places of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. And they're doing that right now. They're having the parikrama in Mayapur, where everybody gets totally absorbed in Gaur Leela. So I want to thank you very much for this, whoever came up with that idea.
We all came up with it.
Yeah, I saw the announcement
It was
made
a team
by
effort.
Pancharatna, and it just was so exciting to hear that. So
Yeah, Pancharatna has
glad
been our primary coordinator and organizing and keeping everything together. And Shamasaki has also been an organizer, but our entire team has been helping out. And
yeah, it's amazing.
we've had a very, very wonderful time. We've also brought in, you know, not, of course, we very much like to hear from our big leaders, but during this period of time, we also brought in many other devotees that are very deep. Maybe they're not as well known, but they're very, very deep. And so we had an entire mosaic of different types of devotees speaking about it. And that also helped to illuminate and make it kind of like a wider participation.
Yeah, I listened to many of them, and they're really spectacular. And the best one I remember, because I only heard it a couple of days ago, was Shruti Rupa talking about the recipes.
Yes, I have to watch that. I haven't watched that yet, but I heard about it, of course, from my colleagues that things really worked out well there. Huh?
Yeah, she was just so full of love for Prabhupada, but love for these recipes, and you know, and Pishama and the whole Bengali life, you know. So that was really a good one. But
well,
I'd
like to remind our audience that they can go and see Shruti Rupa's video on our website, GBC SPT, along with all of the videos that we've done on celebrating Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, Maharaj, I think we should end our time now.
Well, thank you very much, and feel free to share those links for that outline, because it's very helpful. You know, if somebody really looks at that.
We'll definitely share them.
Yeah.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. And anytime I would love to do it again and again and again.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Even though I don't know much. Glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.